Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs MK Dons match review. Now, Sunderland lost 2-1 yesterday to MK Dons at the Stadium of Light. In the general consensus after that game amongst the Sunderland fans was who's getting on the Parky Out bus, and a lot of people are getting on the Parky Out bus. And I was getting asked several times whilst I was at work yesterday. I was getting messaged on Instagram, Twitter, etc., asking me if I'm getting on the Parky Out bus, and not only am I on the Parky Out bus, I'm driving the fucker. And this isn't just a knee-jerk reaction from yesterday's game against MK Dons. It's been coming, and a lot of our victories and wins this season have simply been papering over the cracks, which I've said so many times, and I'll keep using that term because it just fits it so perfectly. Had we won against MK Dons yesterday, it would have been another case of papering over the cracks. And what I mean by that is there's what I've kind of gelled together is three key points, three key factors, which we saw all yesterday, which kind of epitomises Parky and how bad he's been. Now, the first key point is team selection, which we'll get into, of course. Secondly, a lack of a plan B, which again we'll get into throughout the match review. And the third key point is substitutions, which of course there's always been issues with, but again we will touch upon all of these throughout this match review. So, firstly, before I do get into it, I don't want to continue without saying sort of well done to MK Dons. I think in the end they did deserve it. Their game plan was, they nailed it pretty much. And I also believe that their league position was sort of a false one before the game yesterday, because I have seen them play in bits and pieces this season, and they have been good. They haven't been losing many games. They've been drawing a lot, and a lot of those draws could have easily been 3 points and wins. So they have been unfortunate in that sense, and it was a bit of a false position. So, well done to them. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes making a video of me being sour towards MK Dons and using little digs at them because it's cheap and it's not very classy, shall I say. Not that I'm the classiest person in the world, but you know what I mean. But anyway, we will get into the match review itself. So we'll start with the team selection. So we had Matthew starting in goal because Burge apparently had a bit of a knock. Now, my issue with this is that Burge remained on the bench. Burge, yes, it was apparently only a little bit of a knock, nothing massive, and he's on the bench. But needless to say, if Matthews got injured after a couple of minutes, which could happen, unlikely, but it could happen, we've now got an injured keeper who has to come on. So why wasn't Patterson in there, who looked more than capable, he looked decent against Fleetwood. I think the couple of goals he conceded against Fleetwood the other week, he couldn't have done much about, and other than that, he looked relatively comfortable. Kicking ability were decent, he claimed the ball very well, made a couple of very decent saves, reaction saves as well. So why couldn't he at least get a bit of time around the first team from the bench, which is it's vital to a youngster's progress. But no, he's put an injured keeper on the bench. Makes no sense to me. If it happened just during the build-up and Patterson wasn't there, then whatever, maybe. But even still. So we'll move on. So then we have a back three. Now this is where the issue really starts to wind me up. We have O'Nien, we have Bailey Wright, and we have Jordan Willis. Now, Luke O'Nien, he's filled in here, there and everywhere, and I appreciate that. But he is dodgy as hell in that back three. Against really, really lesser opposition, you might be able to get away with it. MK Dons are a good side. If Parkhurst did any form of homework, MK Dons are a decent side. They can pass the ball, they're a counter-attacking side. They have a lot of pace and a lot of technical ability in that final third. And O'Nien isn't the defender for that. And what annoys me more is that we have a defender, a centre-back, a natural centre-back, on the bench in Dion Sanderson with championship experience, sat on the bench, yet he goes for O'Nien, putting him out of position on the left-hand side as well of that back three. That makes no sense. What would make sense is, of course, Dion Sanderson being in there instead of Luke O'Nien. Luke O'Nien goes over to right wing-back, where he's played Lyndon Gooch, and Gooch can push forward, if that makes sense. So that made no sense originally to me. That really wound me up. If, for example, Willis, he has had a recurring knee injury. Apparently, he's living on injections at the minute to get through games. And if it was that bad, take him out and then put Dion Sanderson in, and then I'd understand putting O'Nien in. So we've got an injured Willis, who clearly isn't fully fit, because you can see whenever he goes through any form of burst of pace, tracking back, he's limping for the next 5 minutes. And then we've got Luke O'Nien on the other side of Bailey Wright, who, God bless him, he tries, but positionally he's very questionable. And that isn't his fault. He's not a centre-back. He's naturally a centre midfielder, but he has been doing really well as a right wing-back. And I appreciate that. He's been very, very good there. I appreciate how much he's come along in that position, but he is not in a million years a centre-back. And that isn't me blaming O'Nien for the result, absolutely not. This is just a part of the team selection I'm talking about at the minute. So, of course, then we move on to the wing-backs. Gooch on the right wing-back and Hume on the left wing-back. Now, of course, we've just mentioned Gooch. I think he should have been pushed further up, 09 as right wing back, and then maybe stick Dean Sanderson in the middle of that defence. Now, Gooch, for me, of course, I think the only attribute that makes him half decent in that position is that, of course, his work rate. He is physically strong, but he can't tackle for shit. He gave away so many needless little free kicks in little positions where we didn't need to. When we're just pressing him, and I'll give him a needless free kick when they've got the back to goal. There's no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. And one of those mistakes, or one of those free kicks that he gave away, led to their equaliser, which again we'll get onto later on. So we're compromising players here for no real reason, in my opinion. And then in the middle we had Grant Ledbetter and Scowen and Max Power as well. And then up top we had Will Grigg and Charlie Wyke. So originally I was actually relatively happy and pleased to see Grigg up top with Wyke, at least to give him give him a chance. I know he's had plenty of chances throughout his time at Sunderland, but this season I thought he might be able to kick on from a bright pre-season, which we did see, but then we just haven't seen him. So his lack of game time was getting quite worrying, but he did start. But I just feel like the way he's managed Will Grigg in general has been very poor, considering that he did have a bright pre-season, he hadn't played him, and he just keeps giving him like one game every 3 or 4 weeks, and often in 20-minute spurts off the bench, which it's just poor. But either way, we'll move on. So getting into the game, it was clear from the off that we're playing down the wings. That's what we do. That's our plan A. And again, I will get into the plan A, plan B a bit later on. But our plan A is get the ball to the wings, either with Hume or Gooch on the other side, and put balls into the box. That's our plan A. That's our only plan. Get the balls down the wings, maybe a couple of triangles. And it is a decent plan, don't get me wrong, but you need to be able to offer something else. So for the first 15 minutes, we looked really good. Relatively high press, forcing them into the odd mistake. Will Grigg nicked the ball off their defender who was trying to let it run out of play. Nicked it off him. Gooch is there. He kind of gets sandwiched a little bit in between a couple of MK Dons defenders, but Grigg whips the ball across goal, drills it across goal, passes it across goal, and it just misses Gooch by inches. A touch off Gooch and that would have been 1-0, but it wasn't to be. But eventually we do break the deadlock, and I think we deserved it. We had the ball on the right-hand side, it's whipped in, they fail to clear the lines properly, it falls back to Power on the edge of the box, who drills it home into the back of the net. It did take a wicked deflection, tends to keep it the wrong way, and it goes in. So I thought, yeah, we can push on from there. No, we didn't. We did the absolute opposite. The high press disappeared, and one of these free kicks that Gooch gives away, like I just mentioned just earlier, he gives away a free kick on the left-hand side, ball's whipped in, and there's Cameron Jerome, who he was between and getting marked by Ledbetter, who was in front of him, and Bailey right behind him. He still manages to get ahead on it, and even though I said this on Twitter, and usually I'm furious regardless of the goal we've conceded, but that header was class. It was absolutely class from Cameron Jerome, and I can't deny that. He had his back to goal, and the way he's managed to leap and get the head on it and still direct the header into the far corner was phenomenal. It was very, very good. So I do appreciate that, but that free kick in general, it should never have happened. It was very, very needless. And the defending, of course, could have been a lot better with Bailey Wright and Ledbetter marking the man. Ledbetter's only tiny. There's no way he shouldn't have even been anywhere near Cameron Jerome, because he's not going to, Cameron Jerome's double his height pretty much. Bailey Wright, though, was in behind him and didn't do enough for me. Sandwiched him and he still won the header. So it's 1-1. But then we just kind of relied again on the wings too much. It became frustrating. The players were getting frustrated because that's all they were doing. And the more frustrating thing was, there was huge gaps in the middle of the pitch. There was massive gaps in the middle of the pitch, and there was so many times, I've said this in so many reviews, where the likes of Scowen or Power, they'll pick up the ball in the middle and they have 10, 15, maybe even 20 yards at times in front of him with no MK Dons player. But they'll stop the ball and immediately it's, where's Denver Hume or where's Gooch? There's no need for that. Work them. Get a set of bollocks, grab your bollocks and go forward. Well, maybe not grab your bollocks, that was probably termed very, very wrong. But grow a pair, basically, and get at them. Make them work. Ask questions of them. It became so predictable and so slow so quickly, if that makes sense. Because as soon as we scored that goal, that's all we had. We threw the wing sort of plan and system at them from the off, and they couldn't deal with it. But then after seeing us doing it and watching us do it consistently 15, 20 minutes, they worked us out. Then we had nothing. So I just wanted Power or Scowen to just drive at them, because then that would have sucked out that back line, and their back line was solid as anything. But eventually, one of the chances we did get was through the middle, and that's why I just thought, why weren't we doing it more often? Leadbitter got the ball. It was an inch perfect dink ball over the top for Will Grigg. He could have brought it down and then finished it. It would have been 1-on-1 with the keeper, but instead he's sort of awkwardly thrown a leg at it and then fell over, and then it's rolled through straight to the keeper, which was so frustrating. And then MK Dons, the second we'd make a misplaced pass, they'd be firing straight up, so much pace. With their attack, our defending was terrible, particularly through the midfield. They were walking through us at times. Scott Fraser was literally just walking through us at times. He'd pick it up from the back and he'd just literally lightly jog through the middle. And there's players running away from him almost. It was laughable. It was absolutely laughable. But we get to half-time at 1-1. And it was poor. Like I said, 15 minutes we figured out and we had nothing else. Second half, within a minute, Max Powell gives away a penalty. Now, there has been a lot of sort of controversy regarding was it not or was it a penalty. In my opinion, it was a penalty. It was soft, don't get me wrong, but I know for a fact that I'd be absolutely livid if it happened at the other end and it weren't given. So basically, the ball's coming into the box. Power's trying to clear it, he's trying to volley it away, but his slice is clearance, so it goes behind him back into the box, and as it's bouncing, the ball's rising again. He's gone at it with his other foot, tried to lash at it, and he's caught his man, who's tried to get to the ball as well. For me, it's a penalty. Soft, yes. Was there much contact? No, but it's a penalty. For me, it's a clear-cut penalty. I've seen, it's strange because over different social medias, it seems to vary. Twitter seems to believe it's a penalty, Facebook doesn't. So it's quite a strange one, the way that works. But either way, that's irrelevant. Fraser steps up and puts it in the right-hand side of the goal and sends Matthews the wrong way for 2-1. And the second that goal went in, this is when MK Don's tactics came into play. And as frustrating as it is, it worked. Every man behind the ball parked that bus, and it worked perfectly, because all we had in our arsenal was get it down the wings, see what happens, and then pop the ball into the box. But there was one time where Gooch managed to nick it off the defender down the right-hand side, brings it into the box, plays it across goal, and this is the one that's been shown all over social media. There's Will Grigg, point-blank range, literally a yard out, if that. All he has to do is side foot it home. But his side foot literally went like that. It was an absolute, it was a disgrace. It missed the ball completely when he's tried to tap the ball into the back of the net. Missed the ball completely. It was a joke. It just summed up Will Grigg 100%. He's been poor throughout his time at Sunderland, of course. I know that kind of almost contradicts and goes against what I said earlier, but of course I wanted to see him play earlier on in the season because of how well he was doing during pre-season. That was the point I was making. But that miss just summed up his time at Sunderland 100%. And that doesn't go to say we weren't making chances throughout the rest of the game, because we were, but there was just such a lack of a plan B, which was so frustrating. Like I say, all it was go down the wings and get the ball in. No one's going down the middle and asking questions, dragging out and drawing out defenders, leaving holes in behind to play to the strikers, because the delivery has to be good if you're going to constantly go down the wings, and it has to be inch perfect. But it was so predictable. It was give it to Hume, run at him. Give it to Hume, run at him. And that was it. But Hume did get chances of his own. He did manage to take on his man, get it down the left-hand side, and he was bearing down on goal, coming in from left to right. And I thought he could have just gone for it himself and just tried to drag it across goal into that bottom right-hand corner. But he's hesitated. And then he tried to play it across goal. It's gone to no one. It was easily defended. So that was frustrating. Another one falls to Denver Hume. Right in the latter stages of the game, it's fell back to Denver Hume in the box, and he lashed at it, and it was a class save. It was a class save. He's lashed at it, it's took a deflection, and as the keeper's gone down one way, he's saved it with his legs on the other end. And there was another chance, of course, that fell to Hume as well. All of our chances were falling to Hume. Again, later stages of the game, and the keeper's got down to the bottom right and made a very, very good save. So the chances were there. But now we move on to the substitutes. Now, substitutions, he brought on Danny Graham. He also brought on Maguire. I think that was with around 20 minutes left, he's done this. Didn't really change much. Maguire's someone who can usually create things coming off the front man around there, or coming in off the wings, but he likes to move into that central position. But we weren't doing anything down that central position, like I say, so it completely sort of diffuses any form of threat that Maguire can bring, other than he has his set pieces, and his deliveries are generally relatively good with whipped in crosses, and he was trying to cause problems with that, but MK Dons were dealing with it fantastically so. And there was one time where, although I do say that they were parking the bus, which they were, and rightly so, they've come to Stadium Light to get a result, they did manage to break, after, of course, we were committing men forward, 1-on-1 with the keeper, and Remy Matthews, fair play to him, made a great save, got his body in front of it, and made the save to keep it at 2-1. But then with 4 minutes to go, now here's where we move on to substitutions, he brings on Jack Diamond. Now, what are you doing that for? Our wing play isn't working anyway. You brought on Diamond for 4 minutes. For me, we shouldn't be bringing on subs with 4 minutes to go anyway. Do you know what I mean? What is that going to do? With 4 minutes to go, why are you bringing on Jack Diamond, who, if I'm going to be honest with you anyway, he got bullied for the 4 minutes he was on and he lost the ball 3 times, and that was it. He got bullied. He did look like a child when he came on. But, this isn't me ranting at Jack Diamond. It's just, it doesn't give him a chance to settle into the game. The only time it should be acceptable to bring on a sub with 4 minutes to go is if you're trying to see a game out and you're already on top, or maybe you try to cling on to a draw and you try to waste time, or there's an injury. With 4 minutes to go, what do you expect the young lad to do? It's bollocks. Do you know what I mean? And so those were the main things. Those were 3 key points. His sub support, usually too late. You could see that nothing was happening within 10 minutes after they scored the penalty, that it wasn't working. Subs should have been made earlier, and the right substitutes in that. So the team selection, as I mentioned, poor. Plan A, that is all there is. Get it down the wings and get balls into the box. It can work. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that is wrong, that plan A is wrong, but you need something else to fall back on. And you could see it. You could see it was so drilled into those players' heads. Because as I say, there were so many times where there's yards and yards and yards of space in front of us in the middle, and immediately we're looking up to the wings. When we could just drive forward, draw players out, like I say, and I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. So the way I've described the game there, it sounds like we made enough chances to win the game. We did. In hindsight, we did. If you look at it, we did. And of course, MK Dons did make a couple of chances on the counter-attack in the second half. But had we have taken those chances and had we have scored them, yes, we would have won the game. But it would have been simply papering over the cracks, which is what it all comes down to. It would have been absolutely papering over the cracks. But yeah, so that's it. I'm kind of lost for words now. So that was the game. Parkinson, he wasn't the man 12 months ago, and he certainly isn't now. I know you could say you're fickle, you're this, you're that, and the other. 1 minute you park you in, 1 minute you park you out. I was pretty much parking out from the second he came because I didn't think he was the right man. And then, of course, you back him. You back him, of course, with the first few games, see what he's about. And he was terrible. He went on that horrible run, losing pretty much every game, and I was parking out. But then when he did, of course, go through a certain run, and you could see the little glimpses of what could possibly be, then of course you get a bit more excited. That's only natural. But it's got to the point now where when we are scraping results or getting the wins, it's so easy to look over what is actually the problem here, i.e. team selection, plan B, and substitutions, things like that. It's so easy to just look over and go, oh no, it was 3 points, There's so much more to this. So for me, I am parking out. It was a very, very poor display, and MK Dons deserved the win. So I've just realised I've dragged on for nearly 20 minutes now, so that this is going to be the longest match review I've ever done, I think. But yeah, that is my thoughts on the game. Let me know in the comments down below what you think as well. Are you parking out, and what did you make of the game in general? Let me know. But if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And of course, subscribe if you're not already. Stay jammy. I'll see you in a bit.